Well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are. Welcome back to Take the Points, a true underdog podcast. And if you haven't been able to tell so far, this is a solo show. It's just your boy Steve. No one else wanted to join me today. I think because of the weather. There were tornadoes out there. No, I don't know why anyone could join me. It's just a busy week. It's summertime. Life gets busy. You guys know how it is, right? So we can't always all get up here and rip, the three of us, and some weeks it's harder for even two of us to get on. So luckily I was able to take the initiative, step up with here at Take the Points. We have next man up mentality, and I am able to fill the void, right? I can give the people what they want, which is episode 64 of Take the Points. Now, do I have any idea what I'm supposed to talk about today? Absolutely not. In fact, I kind of wish I would have prepared something by now, but it's a little too late, and we're going to fucking wing it. Robbie gave me some ideas because he is the master preparer that he is. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Tigers. I think all we're going to do, and when I say we, I mean me, all I am going to do today is talk about the Tigers. It's summertime. It is smoking hot outside, and then thunderstorming. But then it's going to be hot this weekend. It's a good day to be out of the ballpark. People are coming through the gates in mass numbers to see our team, our boys, go and win games, and they remain atop the league in the standings. 4 games ahead of the Yankees, 4.5 games ahead of the Astros, I believe. So these teams are kind of nipping on our heels a little bit, but within the division, we're 9.5 games up on Cleveland, and 10 on the Twins, 11.5 on the Royals, and then of course it drops off significantly there because the lowly White Sox are in our division. So it is you were getting near the halfway point of the year, and it's time to talk about this team. It's time to see what we actually think we have. Now, the record itself tells us that we have a good team. 47-27, the best record in the league. Do I think we are the best team in the league? I don't. And that's not a knock against our team. I think that we just have we have a couple weaknesses that I think we can address, and I hope that we do. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, a little bit of trade deadline teaser. But there's been really, a couple of guys that have bailed us out in situations, guys that have stepped up this year, and then you're witnessing it now. A lot of guys have cooled off. Kerry Carpenter has cooled off in the last few weeks. Spencer Torkelson has cooled off in the last few weeks, where earlier in the season, those were guys carrying us. Javi Baez cooled off and then heated back up yesterday. And Skubal Flaherty is good until he's not. Casey Mize is solid. So there's a lot of good pieces on this team, but I just don't, guys, I'm having a hard time putting my finger on how good this team actually is and what they need to be as good as I hope they can be. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll give you some ideas of some guys that I think we can get at the trade deadline. I think I'd love to do more of a detailed trade show when Robbie and Wilson are back and able to join us and talk a little bit about some of these guys in more depth and what it may take to acquire them, which is always fun. It's always fun to play hypothetical GM. It's always fun to play fleece the other general manager and make an offer of ship prospects for all-star player. But there's some names out there that I think are interesting. There's some guys out there that I think could certainly help. But again, it comes down to what do we have for this team? And I think what I really struggle with is looking back at the last 40 games of last year through this year, this team has, I think we're still overachieving our expectations. And I'm not complaining about that. I want to be very clear. I love that we're overachieving because this team is good and they're fun to watch again. We've endured a lot of years of shitty Tigers teams over the last 10 years or so. Thank you, Al Avila. But we've paid our dues, and it's time that we just enjoy the baseball that's in front of us and enjoy the ride. And I hope that the ride culminates in the form of a World Series championship. But I feel like there's a couple pieces that we're missing before we can get there. And with that being said, there's also some elephants in the room, notably the Tarik Skubal situation, as I'm sure some of you guys have seen the clips of him on Barstool's show, Pardon My Take, where he was talking about a $425 million 10-year deal. It's not my money, so I'm fine with that. But also, you have to understand, if we're going to sign Tarik Skubal to a $425 million 10-year deal, there's only a certain number of years in that deal that he's going to play at or close to this level. He's on track to winning another Cy Young, by the way. I think he has been the MVP of the Tigers team so far, really putting the team on his back. He leads the league in strikeouts per nine, leads the league in WHIP. He's Skubal. He is fantastic, right? But to think about paying someone $425 million over 10 years, again, not my money, but we have to understand that is going to handcuff your ability or hinder your ability to add other pieces to this team that cost money, right? And so that's always been, and if we look back at the Chris Ilitch years, I like that there's been a commitment to try to spend, notably what we did with Alex Bregman this summer, trying to get him, and he just ultimately didn't want to be here. I'm sure he wishes he signed here now, because the Red Sox just look like they're in a tough spot, in fourth place in the East. And I mean, they're still above 500, but they just shipped Devers out of town, a guy who, again, just kind of a big player that signed a big contract out there, and then kind of tore up that locker room when Bregman came in, because he didn't want to move off of third base. He didn't want to be a DH. So, and this isn't Boston Red Sox podcast, so I'll leave it at that. But we did try to sign Alex Bregman, and he just didn't want to be here, which is fine, right? But I have to question, and I have to ask myself, and I wish the guys are here to help me answer this, right? But would signing Skubal prevent us from making offers like that in the future? If so, then I don't know if I want to be in the $425 million Skubal sweepstakes. As shitty as that sounds to say, and to hear myself say it, it sucks. But that's just the truth. The fact of the matter is that we don't know what this organization is committing to financially. They have a $90 million payroll or something like that, something ridiculously low. Most of that money is going to Javi Baez, and he'll be off the books in a couple of years. And then you're going to pay Tarik Skubal. Are they trying to stay around that $100 million mark, or are they looking to spend more if it means wins? So we have really yet to see that. And I think this season will be a good indicator of what happens. And I think most notably the trade deadline and this off season. I think at the trade deadline, if you see us signing some players that maybe have a little bit of term, or trading for some players that have a little bit of term, that would be a good start for me, and say, okay, like we're committing to increasing this payroll if it makes us better. But if that isn't the direction that this team wants to go, and signing Tarik Skubal isn't a direction that this team wants to go down, then this is a 2-year window to win a World Series. And I'm sure this probably sounds a lot like 97.1 The Ticket Radio, but it's the fact. It's the truth. If Skubal's only going to be here for 2 years, what are you going to do to maximize that? And if he's only going to be here for 2 years, how do you maximize that without giving up every potential player in your minor league system, which is the top minor league system in baseball, to acquire players to help you in this short window? So it's tough. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm encouraged by some of the comments from Scott Harris that they're going to go out and buy But are you buying a rental player, right? Equivalent of Gleyber Torres? Cool. Or are you trying to buy a player that has some term and is young and under team control for a couple years that you plan on extending after that, right? That would be something that would be really encouraging to me. And then if this true school deal gets done, then okay, I think we're off to the races. But I don't know. Maybe that's a little more pessimistic of me. It's hard to win in baseball. It's hard to win a World Series. I think we all know that as Detroit fans. We've been there a couple times and fell short with teams that we thought were very, very good and capable of doing it. And then this team comes out and overexceeds every expectation that we had of it. And it's a fun ride. But you can overthink it, right? Like you can overthink anything in life, and you can get yourself a little bit into a spiral when you start to think too much about where this team's going to go. So I don't want to, I again, really wish I would have prepared a little bit better, some content for today's episode, but I don't want to sound too much of a Debbie Downer, but that's just how I'm kind of feeling. So this is actually good for me to get it out and not have anyone pushing back on me because of that. Right, I kind of get carte blanche here to say what I want. And I'm sure some of the guys would disagree with me. I'm sure some of you guys listening would disagree with me too, but that's just kind of how I can't help feeling this way. So with that being said, I think a couple interesting notes here on the Tigers, and we're not going to be very long today, mainly because I don't have a plan here. I'm a dangerous man without a plan. So we'll talk a little bit about the trade deadline and where I think the Tigers can add pieces. And then just a real quick touch on some of the all-star voting that's open. If I understand it correctly, I think the all-star, you kind of vote guys through to the voting section. There's a first round of voting, and then the finalists you vote into the all-star game. Gleyber Torres, notably, is in first place on the fan voting for second base, which is great, but go out and vote for your Tigers. If you like what you see on TV, if you like what you see when you go down to Comerica and start ripping a few beers and start trying to heckle the guys in the outfield, which I hope you do. I think that's hilarious when fans try to heckle. Go and vote. Go and vote for your guys. The only time I'll tell you to vote for anything is in the All-Star game. So go and vote for your Tigers to be all-stars, and let's keep the momentum going here during the season. Give me a little coffee break here. Okay. So another idea that Robbie had given me is who is the MVP of the Tigers this year? I think it's easy to say Skubal because he's Skubal. He's must-see TV. He is a front runner for the Cy Young yet again, probably a legitimate MVP contender in the American League. But if you had to look at someone who's not Tarik Skubal to be MVP, oddly enough, I really think I have to give it so far this year to Javi Baez. Javi Baez has a 1.9 WAR so far this year, and he's playing center field a lot of games. Center field, shortstop, third base, second base, and a little bit of DH. And he's hitting 289, 798, OPS, and a 124 OPS plus, which is it's a solid numbers. 9 homers on the year, right, which is way more than he's had in the last few years here. He just looks he looks every bit of the guy that you wanted to be here. And adding to the fact that he's playing center field and just having that positive attitude in the clubhouse as a veteran guy, as a guy who's won a World Series before, being asked to play this new position and doing it well and doing it without batting an eye, without holding a grudge towards the locker room or some of the other guys, or Trey Sweeney, for instance, who's taking his shortstop spot. He just seems like an ultimate team player this year. Now, obviously, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors in that locker room, so I could be way off there. But from what I understand and from what you read about and you hear, is that Javi Baez has embraced this role, and it's showing. Right, he's hitting well, and now the strikeouts are still there. He's got a ton of strikeouts, not as much as Riley Green, which is another area of concern that I have. But he's contributing in a major way this year. So maybe he is the MVP when we look at some of these numbers. And I don't know if the Tigers are where they are without him. And then another honorable mention probably is Dylan Dingler is looking really good as catcher, as a young rookie. So there's a lot to like here on this team. I think you can probably make a case for 4 or 5 guys on this team to be MVP. Gleyber Torres looks really good. Riley Green, as I mentioned, looks really good, minus the strikeouts. Spencer Torkelson has cooled off quite a bit as of late, but the power numbers are back, and that definitely helps. So it's interesting, right? I don't know who you guys think your MVP might be, but that's mine. I think so far is Javi Baez, Javier Baez, as some folks like to refer to him too. Moving on really quickly, man, I do feel like I'm flying through this podcast. I have 2 speeds, fast and kill, and you guys are getting killed today. So the other thing that I love about baseball is the trade deadline. The trade deadline in baseball is awesome because you can usually acquire really good players and, in hindsight, give up nothing for them. Right? Now, what you give up at the time feels like a lot because you give up prospects, but prospects are just that. They're prospects. There's no guarantee that they are going to be all-stars, right? So you look back at the history of the MLB trade deadline, there's been times where you've traded players or you've acquired players that are future Hall of Famers that you knew were on that trajectory when you acquired them, and you gave up guys that barely touched the big leagues who were prospects at the time. So that's exciting. And on the flip side of that argument, you've given up future Hall of Famers who are just prospects and gotten just role players in return. So there's a lot that it can go either way. But when I look at the Tigers prospects and the guys we have here, excuse me, and that can be available via trade, I don't think we're going to move Max Clark. He's the number 1 prospect in the system, and I think he's the number 3. What is he overall? He's the number 7 overall prospect in baseball. So I don't think if you're giving up Max Clark, you better be getting like Jacob Wilson or somebody back from the Athletics, who they would never trade, by the way. So I don't think you'll be giving up Max Clark. But Kevin McGonigal looks like he's going to be a really, really good player. He's a top prospect. I could certainly see them moving him, especially if they retain someone like Bryce Rayner, who is going to be injured, I believe, for the rest of the year. But he's a top prospect as well, a good shortstop prospect. His bats really come alive this spring, or earlier in the summer and this spring. Ho-Yu Lee is another interesting prospect, number 6 on our top 30 here that can be moved. Thyron Lorenzo, who we got in the Jack Flaherty trade last year. Josu Briseno, I don't know if I'm saying some of these names right, but a couple of first base and catcher prospects there with some power. That there's some redundancy there, so one of them can be removed. Chris Rodriguez was another guy that we signed. He was an international signing, our biggest international signing I think we've ever done as an organization. A lot of promise there, but he's not going to be in the majors till about 2030. So if paying that price makes sense for a good player, I think it's safe to say that we would make that move because he's so far out. But we got a lot of players here in this system that I think we can move. So that was just kind of some of our top 10 prospects that I think could fetch us a good return. But again, it does kind of depend on what Scott Harris's approach is going to be. Are we just going to try to fill some gaps over the next year or two, or are we looking for players that are going to come in and be a key piece of this core? So with that being said, I think there are some needs that I think we need to meet in the trade deadline, some weaknesses that need to be filled. I think most notably is probably, I would say actually my number one priority would probably be a bullpen arm, just because I don't think you can ever have enough of those. And our pitching staff is so strong that adding another high leverage bullpen arm to this equation, typically those guys don't cost too much in terms of prospects. Maybe you're giving up a Roberto Campos or Max Anderson, right? These guys that are number 20 or 21 on our top 30 list for a guy with a couple years of control and is a sixth, seventh inning type of guy. That would be great to have. I think just giving AJ Hinch another weapon, another tool in the tool chest, so to speak, would be super powerful, would be a great move at this trade deadline. I hope it wouldn't be the only move. I would still really love to see a right-handed bat on this lineup, preferably one that can play third base or shortstop, especially given how Javi Baez has been willing and capable to play third base. Nothing against Trey Sweeney. Trey Sweeney, I think, is a fine player at shortstop. He's about league average, or he's a little below league average. So an upgrade there would be welcomed. And one of the things that they, I believe it was Scott Harris mentioned when talking about the trade deadline on our local radio stations, is that they want to be unpredictable. And that goes back to kind of the pitching chaos approach that they had last year. If you notice it this year, it is a lot of batter chaos. You see guys like Jahmai Jones, Zach McKinstry getting a lot of reps out there. There's no Matt Vierling still. He's been hurt, but there's been a lot of different guys in the mix. Justin Henry Malloy. The lineup's been different a lot this year, and it's worked so far. But I just don't know how sustainable it is. I would really feel more comfortable if you had a middle of the lineup right-handed hitter that you added to Gleyber Torres, you added to Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, Dylan Dingler in the heart of that lineup, and added one more player that teams look at and say, man, that's a tough stretch, right? You want that 1 through 5, 1 through 6 of your lineup to be tough to get through, right? Because the starting pitchers will have to go through that probably 3 times throughout the course of a start. And you want guys that are just good approaches at the plate, guys that are legitimate threats against pitchers at any time that can just make it tough for starters, right? And especially when you think about the playoffs and going into, hopefully we don't get into the wild card, but a 5-game series in the ALDS, and then a 7-game series in the ALCS. That 5-game series is tough, right? Because you can go up against 2 good pitchers and go down 0-2 real quick. So you want to have guys in the lineup that can make it tough, right, for those pitchers. So there are some players out there that seem like they might be available. And I know there's a lot of chatter about Bo Bichette being kind of that ideal guy that's available. But and I think it makes sense to think that he could be a piece that you would acquire. And I would love Bo Bichette. And I know I've talked about it on this pod back in, I think it was in the winter when we were talking about Tigers offseason plans, is going and getting Bo Bichette, because the biggest reason for me is that Toronto's not going to sign Bo Bichette long-term, right? He is a free agent after this season. They already signed Wow, why is his name Vlad Guerrero? Thank you, my goodness, Vlad Guerrero. They have George Springer on a big deal. They signed Anthony Santander. They got some good catches there, like Alejandro Kirk, who I think will be due for an extension here soon. So it makes sense that Bo Bichette's kind of the odd man out there. And Bo Bichette's hitting 270. He's got a 737 OPS. He's hit 9 home runs this year. So he would be a welcome addition to this team. He's had a great career, with the exception of last year where he was dealing with some injuries. He's had a really good career. He's been a really good player. He did look like a future star when he was younger with Toronto. So I would welcome that. But again, when you take the context into consideration, the Toronto Blue Jays are 39-33. They're third place in the AL East, just 3 games behind the Yankees, and they are 2 games up. They're in the wild card spot right now, so it wouldn't behoove the Blue Jays to move Bo Bichette. I don't know if they will. I think they're going to be similar to what I mentioned about the Tigers, just going for it now, and then dealing with the fallout of losing Bo Bichette in free agency later. But the trade deadline is not for a couple weeks still, so the wheels could fall off. They could start slipping, 2-3 games out behind or out of the wild card, and say, you know what, we're just gonna try again, right? We'll trade some pieces and retool a little bit. So that'd be a name I'd welcome, but I wouldn't hold my breath that Bo Bichette will be a Tiger. But I do love the idea of targeting guys that can play shortstop and or third base as a position of need here. So I look at guys like a name that I'm sure Tigers fans are familiar with from the offseason, Nolan Arenado from St. Louis. He's hitting, he's got a 694 OPS. He's got 8 home runs. Batting average is 244. He's a right-handed bat. He probably wouldn't be too expensive. He's a free agent. He's signed through 2027 at about $30 million a year. So he's going to be. He comes with some financial term attached to him, but he's a career 283 hitter, a career 851 OPS. St. Louis doesn't look like they are going to be really going anywhere. They're a game and a half back out of the wild card, but again, they're in another tough division, so they might be looking to move off of that money. And I don't think it would cost a lot to get Nolan Arenado. But again, if that was a player that we were going to get on the Tigers, I feel like that deal would have been done when they were shopping him a bit more heavily in the offseason. Excuse me. Another name that I think is interesting is Alec Bohm over in Philly. He is a free agent in 2027. He's in the arbitration stage of his career. So he's getting $7 million this year. He'll probably get about 10 to 12 next year. He's hitting 285. He's got 7 home runs and a 727 OPS. He would be a nice right-handed bat on that can play third base. That I would welcome. He was another good prospect that came up and looked like a future star. But it would be interesting if the Phillies want to move on from him. The Phillies are in the wild card spot right now, but I don't know if moving on from Alec Bohm makes a lot of sense for them. So it'll be interesting, right? Again, I think the next few weeks will be telling when these teams start to really separate from the pack, right? You're going to have the good teams separate from the bad teams, and the bad teams are going to start to sell or identify themselves as sellers, and the good teams are going to start identifying themselves as buyers. And then those kind of in the middle teams are going to have a decision to make, and that's where I think everything will be a lot more clear. Another example is Eugenio Suarez, former Tiger Eugenio Suarez on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Excuse me. He is playing He's having a great year. I think he's got 18 home runs already this year, and for the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks are a 500 team. They're in a tough division in the NL West, right? So they gotta fight with the Padres, the Giants, the Dodgers, for that for wild card spots and for the division lead. I think they are in the division. The Diamondbacks are 8 games behind the lead, and then in the wild card they are. And apologies for the click noises that you hear. They're 3 games out of the wild card. So again, this could be a team that very quickly could decide to be sellers. And Eugenio Suarez would be a welcome addition here. I think Eugenio Suarez's contract is, let me see here. I'm pulling it up right now live. He's signed through 2025. So he had an 8-year, $80 million deal. So he's a free agent after this season. So more of a rental player that I don't think would be relatively expensive. You're probably getting some low level prospects in return for him. So, but yeah, Eugenio Suarez would be great. He's only got 21 home runs this year. Batting average isn't great, but that's kind of the name of the game, right? Is guys with pop and low average, just hitting for power. He would be a welcome right-handed bat in this lineup, someone that, again, you stick him in the middle there with Torque, Kerry Carpenter, Gleyber Torres, Riley Green. That's a lineup of guys that can really do some damage at any given point. So I would really like that, but we'll see. More names will probably surface here in the coming weeks as potential guys that could be on their way out. I think another name that I look at here is, give me a second. I just had it up. Where is it? Ryan McMahon. Now he's a left-handed bat, but he's having a really good year. And I think that I think from a contract perspective, he's signed for a couple more years. Again, bear with me while I type this up. Usually I would be looking this up while someone else does the talking, but I can't do that because it's just me today. It's a solo show. He's got 11 home runs this year, and he is signed through 2027. So you're getting a little bit longer term with McMahon, but he's a left-handed bat. I don't know if we need another left-handed bat in this lineup. So we'll see. We'll see what Scott Harris decides to do. And then obviously there's some bigger names out there that could probably be pried off of better teams. Right. I don't know if we're going to get Austin Riley from Atlanta, but at some point guys like that become available with a year or two left in their deals. It just might make a little more sense later down the line for a guy like that. But there's going to be someone out there that I think is going to suddenly become available that we didn't think was going to be available, right? So it would be interesting to see what happens. And then the last piece that I think we could use on the Tigers, and if I'm getting greedy, I think we should start by addressing the bullpen because that's very easy to do. I think you can get some bullpen arms for relatively low grade prospects. Or maybe even someone like Justin Henry Malloy or someone like Jace Young, who's still in that prospect type area, still considered a prospect but they have that MLB experience. They're not on our top 30 list anymore. They've kind of graduated from there, but someone that still needs a little bit more seasoning, probably in the minor leagues before they're an impactful player, but also has the familiarity with the big leagues and could be there relatively soon. But if we're going to get greedy, I think that adding a starting pitcher would be great too. I think with Jack Flaherty's back has had some injuries. Reese Olson's on the IL. We're starting to get back into that pitching chaos a little bit. Casey Mize was down for a little bit, and I know the corpse of Alex Cobb is coming back, but that's not a guy I trust. So, but I would like a veteran pitcher. I would like someone who's been there before. And I think that would be kind of, if you could get all three of those guys this offseason, that tells me you're going for it in the next few years. For this trade deadline. That would tell me that you're going for it for the next few years, and that it would be, I would welcome it, right? But they got to be the right moves, and I don't want to see this team deplete their farm system to do it. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how it all unfolds, but that's really kind of where I'm at with the Tigers. It's been a lot of fun. It's been great watching this team succeed. It's been great watching this team, just kind of mount these ferocious comebacks and watch Terry Skubal go out there and flirt with no hitters and start mowing guys down. It's been a lot of fun. It reminds you a lot of the Tigers teams of old, except we just don't have that one dude, right? We don't have the Miguel Cabrera like we did in the past, right? All of these guys are pretty good, right? It's a little Moneyball-ish, but I'd love to, in a perfect world, I'd love a star. I'd love a stud player here. Whether that be Riley Green develops into that and takes that step forward and kind of cuts his strikeouts down and really turns into this guy's a dude, or acquiring one, right? So TBD there, but been a lot of fun. I hope you guys are enjoying the Tigers season as much as I am. I wish I could get to more games. I wish I could get to. I was bummed I missed the game where Ludacris played after the other week. Shout out to Robbie, who just passed on that concert because it was raining. And that's my Robbie impression, of course. But yeah, Ludacris played after the Tigers game on last Friday, and the concert looked sick. I love Luda. I'm a big fan. And was really kind of personally offended that Robbie didn't go to the concert. I would have really, really had loved to have been there, singing along to Move Bitch, right? Or Saturday, right? Ooh, ooh, sticky, icky, icky. But I digress. It's just been a fun year. God, I have completely lost cabin pressure at 37 minutes, haven't I? It's been a fun year, and I wish I could go to more games. I wish I could watch more games than I can, being a young dad here, but I can't complain because life is good. Life is great. We're coming up on, I just turned 39, and it's been a year since the guys asked me to join this pod full time, and you've gotten 2 solo Steve shows out of that deal, and I hope you'd enjoyed them. I'll probably come back with another wrestling special at some point, if that's what the people want, and I'm happy to do it. But this has been fun, man. And if I can spend the last 2 minutes just sending out some love to everybody and just saying thank you for listening to us. Please follow, please like, subscribe, give us comments, give us feedback. We love it. We're all trying our best here to just make this work and make this just a fun thing for us to do, that you guys enjoy listening to. So keep it coming, and then, keep having enjoying the great days of summer, man. Michigan summers are the best. We don't get a lot of time that the weather is just good. Get out to the ballpark, man. See our guys, vote in the All-Star game. Go outside, put your feet in the ground, enjoy that sunshine. It's what life's all about. So at that rate, I'm going to have to shut myself off here because the caffeine is really kicked in from this coffee. And if I don't turn it off here soon, I'm going to go for another hour, and God knows what's going to come out of it. So thank you again for listening. We hope to have you back next time on Take the Points, a true underdog podcast. Peace.